Hi. I'm a little bit excited because I'm going to start a new series of tutorials, and I know I have some sock tutorials, but we're going to pretty much go into depth, and I'm going to call it Tootsie Tuesdays. Tootsie meaning foot, so it'll be on Tuesday that they'll get published. Watch for them. We're going to talk about a few things today just to get us introduced to it. First of all, what I'd like to tell you about is the different ways that you can knit a sock. And basically, this was a toe-up sock. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. I got a bunch of things to show you, so let's get them out of the way. Okay, so this is a toe-up sock, and that means that I have started at the toe, and I've worked through the toe part, the foot part. This is called a fish lips kiss heel, and then I'm doing the cuff right now. Now, there's another way. You can start them from the top and work down to the toe, and I've done that a lot. This is an example of something that I did quite a few years ago that was top down. And when you do top down, what I like about the toe up is when you do toe up, you have a stretchier cast off, and so I have swelling because of kidney issues, and so toe up works a lot better for me because then I have more control. Sometimes when you cast on for a cuff down, it's a little bit harder to get the stretchy. It stretches, but it's a little bit hard on the cast on. The other thing that I'm going to show you are the different toes that you can make. This is considered a round toe, and going from top down, we stopped the design and did a round toe, and I don't know if you can see, it kind of looks like little V's because of the way we did it. So that's another thing. And I put my socks together. I fold the heels, and then I fold them. But let me show you the difference. Now this is a fish lips kiss heel, and we'll talk about this. I'll show you where to get the pattern, and we'll kind of talk this through. This is one of the nicest fitting pair of socks that you will ever find with a heel. This heel is the typical heel cuff, turning the heel and then catching the gusset, and it doesn't fit as well. I will tell you that. I've had a harder time getting these to fit. So I'll teach you both of them. The first one we're going to learn is the heel part, the toe, or the heel, turning the heel, and then picking up the gusset. And it's a nice sock, and if you like to wear them like that, then that'll work for you. The other thing I do when I go to put my socks away, you'll see I have them all kind of like this. And so I will lay them down flat. One of my heels will go pointing towards the toe. The other heel, and I guess that one, the other one points towards the toe, and then one points towards the cuff. Then I lay them together, which means that that bulk is divided. It's not big and bulky. And then I start pulling one of the toes up, you just back and forth. One of the cuffs over, the next toe over, the cuff, and then you put the toe inside. And what this does when you're getting ready to wear a pair of socks, and these are very old, they're getting a little limp. When you look at this sock in a little box, I have shoe boxes, plastic shoe boxes that I keep my socks all lined up in. You can see what your cuff looks like, you can see what the pattern is, and then you can decide, oh, and I have red socks that have different patterns. So you can decide, do I want lacy socks today, or do I just want something plain? So let me show you another pair of socks that we have, and these are DK weight. So I'm going to show you the difference between that. This sock that's still on my needles is a sock yarn, and it's very thin. This is a DK weight, and you've seen the difference in DK and regular sock yarn. And when you look at it, this is a little bit bigger. So you use a bigger needle when you do the DK swish. Now this is actually what I'm going to start you off with, a sock in a DK weight, whether it's swish or whatever other kind you like, but make sure that you get a DK weight to start with. And we're going to use size 5 needles. Now, let's talk about needles. Let me put these aside for now. There are different ways that you can knit socks, and I have done several ways. One way is to use circulars, and these are cubic rosewood, and they're square. It's a 2.5, I think, size, 2.5 millimeters. So this is really a nice, if you're just learning, I suggest wooden needles, because then the yarn won't slip off, and especially if you're going to use double points. Now, I have all kinds of double points. Let's talk about the double points first. When you do double points, if you're using metal, like these zings, you will have a tendency, you have to be a little bit more careful so that your yarn doesn't slip off the ends. Now I use 5. Some people will use 4 needles, and some people use 5. I like to have 5 because the patterns that I've done, especially with my lace patterns, I cast on 64 stitches, which means that I'm going to put 16 stitches on 4 needles and save 1 needle to work with. And what that usually does is patterns that I've worked with are divided into 16 stitch patterns. So I have 1 full set on 1 needle, the second full set on the other needle, and then when you turn it over, you'll have 2 more needles. So I do like knitting with double points. They are a lot of fun. The other thing that I want to tell you is, if you like double points, if you want to use double points, I would suggest for your first try to get some wooden ones, because the wooden ones hold the yarn just a little bit better. You don't have as much slippage, and so you won't drop stitches so well. And I like knit picks. I haven't had any trouble with the knit picks double points, and they're very nice, very sturdy. I have just about all the sizes that come in the knit picks double points. Okay, let's talk about circulars. Again, this is a rosewood cubic, and it's a very nice. You will need something that's at least 32 inches long. Now these are 40, which I will tell you why. A 32 is plenty to do if you're going to do 1 sock like I'm doing here. And actually it's probably just a little bit. This is called a magic loop. And it means that I have half of my stitches on one needle side and half on the other. And I will teach you how to work the magic loop so that it's a little bit easier. Some people try to push all of their stitches just to one end, and that won't work. But we'll talk about how to do that. So if you're using a 40-inch, I can do 2 socks at a time on a 40-inch, which means that I would have another pair of socks here. It also means that you have 2 balls of yarn that you have to keep straight, and I will teach you some things to make it just a little bit easier keeping them straight. This is a more advanced, and so we won't be doing this for a while. We're going to start with just 1 sock and work through 1 sock. The other needles that, if you're going to try and do them on circular needles, is the carbons. These are also my favorite needles to knit socks, and this is a size 2.75 millimeter. The reason I like these, they do have a metal tip on them, but once you get into where this black part is, it's almost a little bit, not quite like wood, but it's almost like wood. It will hang on to your stitches just a little bit better. They won't slip as much as when they're on metal. I do have metal, and I like metal when I'm working with socks. You can see this sock that I'm working right now is on metal. And they're very small because I'm using sock yarn, fingering weight yarn. But these are things that you need to think about when you're getting ready to knit socks. Now, like I said, we're going to use a swish, a DK weight swish, and DK says that you can use a size 5 needle, knitting needle, and so that's what we're going to do. So if you are looking for needles, if you're looking for double points, you will want to look at the size here. This is a US 5, and this would be the size that we would use to make socks with a DK weight. Okay, and they're quite a bit bigger. Let me get one out to show you. They're quite a bit bigger than, say, this is a 275 millimeter. It's a US 2, and this is a US 5. So you can see the difference between something you would use for DK weight and something you would use for fingering or sock weight yarn. Big difference. And you can even go smaller, but I like the way, for me, when I knit socks, I like the way that the size 2 fits on my foot. So that's a few things to think about. Okay, so I do suggest that you get at least a 32. If you plan on hopefully getting to knitting 2 socks at a time, you'll need a minimum of 32 inches long. 40 is really nice, and that's what this one is. You can kind of see it's very, very long. Let me kind of get it. And these do have memory. You can heat them up in warm water, but you can't do it a whole lot of times because then it will degrade the plastic in your cable. They do have knitting needles, and I just got a pair from Knitter's Pride that have stainless steel mesh in the cable, and so those are really nice. But you can see this has a lot of memory to it. It doesn't bother me because I've been knitting long enough that I just keep twisting my needles until that's out of my way. So it's up to you how you want to go ahead and do that. Let's see, what's the other thing we want to talk about right now? Let's push all of this out of the way, and I'll clean it up later. Again, sock yarn compared to DK yarn. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you, and I think I've done a book review on this in one of my videos, and it'll be in my sock the playlist for my socks. But this is a fabulous book. I can't believe I'm knitting socks, and you can see mine has been well loved. It is falling apart. I have used it tremendously. But there are, I think 5 or 6. Let's go look at this. There are 5 or 6. Once they go through the different parts of a sock, the toe, and they've done it in color so that you can kind of see. We're not going to do that when we learn how to knit, but we are going to separate it and have different lessons for the different parts, how to get things straight on your needles. This is a fabulous resource. It has a pattern for a basic sock, and then in the back it also has several patterns, different patterns that you can try to make the cuff just a little bit different. Okay, this is something I highly suggest if you want to learn how to make socks. Otherwise, you can watch me. I'm going to walk you through everything. I think that's about it. I hope that this will be helpful to you. I know a lot of people love doing socks. I love wool socks. We will do a session on how to take care of your socks because you don't throw them in the washer and wash and dry them. You do have to do them by hand, but they're really worth it, and they're not that hard to do. So I hope this has been helpful. We'll go ahead on Tuesdays and we will start. So if you're going to start with us, make sure you get some DK weight, which says double knit, but it's just a DK weight. It's the weight. And have some size 5, either double points or circulars, and we will start I think next week we're going to start on beginning a sock. And I am going to show you how to start both ways. We will start cuff down for one pair, and then we will start toe up for another pair. This is what I wanted to show you before we go. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I brought one of these socks. So this is not a round toe, and you can tell because it has been Kitchener stitched. Oh, and my yarn's coming apart. It has been Kitchener stitched, and we will work with Kitchener stitch, although everybody hates. I have not met anyone in my travels that likes Kitchener stitch. But what it does is it will take two flat pieces of yarn like this, and it will work them to the point that they look like they're knit across, and that's a special stitch that does that. These socks actually have the box toe, which for me, I learned, these are old socks. I learned that I don't care for the box toe because of the way my foot is formed. You may like the box toe because all of your toes might be closer to being even. My toes are kind of like my hands, short, long, short, and so I like a round toe. But when you look at this, you can kind of see there's more of a seam until we get to the end of our sock, and then we do a Kitchener to join these together, as compared to a round toe. And whether you're going up or down, you can do the round toe. And so I will show you both ways to make the toe, and especially when we do cuff down, we will do the more box. Starting from the toe up, I will show you how to do the round, and I will show you how to do the round going cuff down. But for me, it's a lot easier if you want the box toe to do it cuff down. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this. This is going to be quite a long session. We will do several of these because I want you to understand fully how to make socks. And once you get addicted to knitting socks, you'll be knitting socks all the time. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a little bit longer than some of our videos, but shorter than some of our others. So join me next week when we go ahead and begin our sock knitting. All right, I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.